They thought we were extinct. That's the part that gets me the most. Not defeated, not surrendered. Extinct. Like a footnote in a war report. Like a species that mattered so little, its death wasn't even worth a headline in their smug galactic networks. The Tharnax Confederation had been at war with the Kravari Dominion for nearly 100 years. Star systems burned, moons shattered, civilizations toppled under fleets the size of small continents. Billions died. And after all the chaos, the Tharnax emerged victorious. They paraded through the ruins of galaxies they didn't build. They toasted their victory over the Kravari in orbit around once thriving planets. They gave speeches, long ones, and they laughed. Oh, how they laughed. That's when the real problem began, because they forgot one tiny, inconvenient detail. They forgot about us, humanity. No, scratch that. They erased us. The Dominion claimed they'd wiped out Earth 50 years ago with a solar destabilizer. The Tharnax never even checked. Why bother? Humans were primitive by their standards. Fragile, emotional, disorganized. What they didn't understand was that our chaos wasn't a flaw. It was a weapon. I'm Captain Aaron Solis, last of the Helix Wolves. We were a ghost unit, a black ops team buried so deep, not even our own governments admitted we existed. When Earth fell, or so everyone thought, we were off-world, running missions in dead zones the Dominion never cared to patrol. We saw the wave of destruction roll across the galaxy, watched as stars went dim and resistance turned to silence. We went dark, for years, bunkered down in a forsaken mining colony in the Orion Dust Belt. But silence doesn't last forever. We started intercepting the Tharnax broadcasts. At first we thought they were just gloating over the Kravari. Then we heard them mocking us, laughing at the ugly little mammals who couldn't save their own planet. And that's when we decided to give them a reminder. We weren't dead. We were angry. Our team was down to 12 operatives, each one more ghost than soldier now. But we had something the Tharnax would never understand. Desperation. Rage. Nothing left to lose. We started hitting their comm relays. Tiny, precise strikes. Blamed it on leftover Kravari tech. Then we sabotaged a supply route between the Vega gates. Took down an entire freighter convoy. Still, they didn't suspect us. They called it malfunctions. But the moment we destroyed their celebratory war monument on the ruins of Gentar Prime, things changed. I remember it like it just happened. That cold, black vacuum of space. The explosion lighting up the dead sky like a vengeful god had finally opened its eyes. Their broadcast cut mid-sentence. The symbol of their arrogance, gone in flames. The Tharnax started scrambling. Their fleets rerouted. Security tripled. Panic in their voices. And whispers began. Whispers of something that shouldn't be possible. Humans, they didn't say it openly. Not yet. But fear crept into their transmissions. They checked the death records. The Dominion had guaranteed Earth's destruction. But what if, just what if they were wrong? The galaxy thought the war was over, but it wasn't, not even close. Because the species that invented guerrilla warfare, that turned desperation into victory across 1,000 years of bloodshed, was back. And we were just getting started. They sent patrols, hundreds of them, swarms of sleek Tharnax interceptors buzzing through forgotten star lanes, scanning for ghosts. But they were chasing shadows. We knew how to hide. More importantly, we knew how to hurt them without ever being seen. Our base was buried inside an abandoned Kravari asteroid mine, deep, unstable, and completely invisible to surface scans. The AI that ran the place was half-sentient and probably insane, but it owed us a favor. We'd saved its core during the Dominion's purge years ago. In return, it gave us the one thing we needed most: silence. No one knew we were alive, but they sure as hell felt our presence. We started targeting their victory routes, paths where their admirals made pompous tours, flaunting their dominance. We hijacked a ceremonial cruiser in the Zenthra spiral, reprogrammed its navigation system, sent it crashing into a Tharnax munitions depot on Marson 7. The explosion lit up half the quadrant. No survivors, no mercy. Still, they refused to say our name. That was the funny part. These smug, scaled bastards, genetically enhanced, arrogant, cold-blooded killers, they were afraid of admitting what was happening. Saying it out loud would make it real, and they weren't ready for that. We intercepted their communications during what was supposed to be a private war council. One of their generals, a three-eyed brute named Zorvak, screamed about the return of the extinct apes. He got laughed at, called paranoid, delusional. But not for long. Because that same week, we took out an entire Tharnax research outpost on Rigel Zix. No survivors, no message, just a human handprint, scorched into the outer hull with plasma burn. That's when things really got interesting. I started hearing it in the voices we captured. Fear. Who are they? They shouldn't be here. We killed them, didn't we? They didn't understand. They never would. See, the Tharnax fought like emperors. Big fleets, big shows of power, victory by dominance. Humans? We fight like rats in the walls. We bite, we scratch, we burn it all down if we have to. When we've lost everything, that's when we become truly dangerous. No more home, no more orders, just survival and rage. We didn't need battalions. We just needed the right kind of chaos. Juno, our tech specialist, hacked a civilian broadcast tower on Drelos Prime. She didn't even use encryption, just uploaded raw footage of Tharnax war crimes, the ones they tried to erase, burned cities, executed Kravari children, laughing soldiers posing with bodies. We spliced in our insignia at the end. A human skull, black background, red eyes. Below it, we remember everything. It spread faster than any fleet ever could. Kravari resistance cells started reactivating. Old allies who'd gone into hiding reached out. Pirates began attacking Tharnax ships just for the thrill of joining the humans. It wasn't just war anymore, it was myth. They turned us into a legend, a terrifying, invisible legend that struck from nowhere and vanished just as fast. One by one, systems started slipping through the Tharnax grip. Not because of us directly, but because of what we represented. Defiance, madness, revenge. And in the middle of it all, we got a message. Encrypted, obsolete Terran code. Something no one in the galaxy had used in decades. It read, "This is General Cato, formerly of Earth's Unified Defense Command. If you're out there, you're not alone. We survived. And we're ready to fight." My heart stopped. Earth wasn't dead. The last command center, Titan Base, had survived the Dominion's purge, hidden beneath Saturn's ice, waiting for a sign. We were that sign. We weren't ghosts anymore. We were the beginning of something they'd never be able to kill. We barely spoke for a full minute after we got that message. Everyone just stared at the screen, frozen. A silence heavier than space itself. Then Juno whispered, "Holy shit, Earth's alive." She wasn't wrong. That message, short, desperate, clear, shattered every belief we'd been running on for years. We weren't just a last stand anymore. We were the tip of a buried spear, and someone was finally pushing it out of the dirt. I called a full ops meeting right there in the command cavern. 12 chairs, all filled with people I'd trusted with my life too many times to count. Some missing eyes, limbs, even half their minds, but still here. Still dangerous. "We need to confirm it's real," said Vex, our sniper, always the skeptic, always thinking like an assassin. "It is," Juno shot back. "No one else even remembers that code encryption. Titan Base is the only place that had that protocol keyed into their final fallback." I nodded. And if Titan Base survived, They've probably got more than just encrypted messages. Supplies, weapons, maybe a fleet. If we link up with them, we become more than a rumor, Rico interrupted, a slow grin spreading across his scarred face. We become a hefking revolution. He was right, and the Tharnacs weren't going to wait around to see that happen. We'd lit a fire under their empire, and now they were shifting hard. A week after the broadcast, they declared martial law across 12 sectors. Thousands of Kravari were rounded up for questioning. Dozens of mining colonies were bombed flat for suspected terrorist activity. They didn't know where we were, but they were panicking hard enough to punish everyone just in case. They didn't understand that every time they lashed out, they were feeding the flame. So we gave them more reasons to lash out. We launched Operation Widow's Teeth, simultaneous strikes on 5 Tharnacs listening posts orbiting their core trade worlds. We timed it to the second. Juno disabled their local AI defenses with a virus we'd stolen from a Kravari weapons cache. Vex and Reiko coordinated sniper squads on automated drop pods. The rest of us led the breach. It was brutal, up close, face to face. Not the kind of warfare Tharnacs soldiers were trained for. See, they were raised in climate-controlled academies, trained by simulators and tutors, taught war like a theory. We were taught by loss, by watching cities collapse, watching comrades suffocate in zero-G, watching our home planet get erased from every map that mattered. We didn't shoot to wound. We didn't pause to think. We erased them. And when it was done, we took their gear, their data, and we left them with the same message as always. A scorched handprint and those 3 blood-red words. We remember everything. The galaxy was shifting now. Fast. A Kravari fleet fragment, what was left of their exiled military, sent a message of alliance. The Jinnar, a trade species who'd once laughed at humanity, offered us supplies. A few dozen rogue Tharnacs soldiers, sick of the genocide, defected in secret. The tide was turning. But that was when the Dominion returned. We picked up the signal a week later. A massive warship, Dominion class, long-range hypercore, and it was heading straight for Titan Base. The Tharnacs weren't alone anymore. The ones who tried to wipe us out were coming back to finish the job. The Dominion ship sliced through space like a ghost from our past, silent, black-hulled, and impossibly massive. They called it the Herald. We called it what it really was. A warning. This thing's not just a warship, Juno muttered, eyes fixed on the readouts. It's a damn funeral procession. She wasn't exaggerating. The last time the Dominion used a Herald-class ship, it erased the moons of Callus in under 3 hours. And now it was heading straight for Saturn, straight for Titan Base. The problem was, Titan couldn't move. It wasn't a ship. It was a buried base, one that survived under sheets of methane ice by going quiet, hiding under the ruins of our last planetary defenses. If the Herald found it, they wouldn't just destroy the base. They'd destroy what was left of humanity's heart. We didn't have much time. I called General Cato myself, using the same ancient Terran code from the message. Static crackled before his image finally came through. A weary, gray-bearded man with eyes that had seen too much and lived through worse. "Captain Solace," he said, voice tight with urgency. "I've been waiting years to say this. We need you. Now." "We'll buy you time," I replied. "Just tell me how long you need." 6 hours, he said. "We've got a buried launch platform. One last fleet. Dormant. If we can wake it, humanity will have teeth again." I looked around at my team. 12 of us against a warship the size of a small city. I didn't need to ask. They were already strapping in. 6 hours. We'd have to hold off a Herald-class Dreadnought, with barely enough gear to take down a Tharnacs patrol. No backup, no second wave, just us. We rode the Wraith, our patched-together stealth ship, straight toward Saturn's orbit. We stayed low, just above the rings, using them as a cloak. When the Herald entered Titan's proximity, we saw its silhouette blot out stars, I've never seen anything that big, Vex whispered. Then aim for the softest part, I said. Engage cloak, weapons hot. We had one shot. Juno launched an EMP torpedo we'd handcrafted from Kravari scrap. It wouldn't kill the Herald, but it might blind its long-range sensors for a few minutes, enough to get in close. The torpedo hit. For 3 minutes, the stars went silent. We darted underneath its belly, slipping past shields weakened from long travel. Rico and I dropped through the hull on magnetic boots, plasma cutters out. One layer at a time, we carved into the beast. Inside, the ship was pure Dominion design. Cold, geometric corridors, humming with dormant malice. We planted explosives at every major vent port, power relay, and shield capacitor we could find. They found us during the last placement. 10 of them. Tall, white-armored nightmares with obsidian eyes and blades for fingers. Dominion enforcers. They didn't ask questions. They didn't shout orders. They just came at us. Rico went down first, 3 blades through his gut before he even fired a shot. I dragged him behind cover, felt warm blood soak my gloves, but I didn't stop. I detonated the first charge. The hallway collapsed, throwing 3 enforcers into fire. "Get out of there!" Juno screamed through the comms. "They're launching interceptors." "Tell Kato we're holding," I shouted, breath heaving, as I blasted through another squad. Vex covered the exit. 2 minutes left on the timer. Then we saw the worst. The Herald was already aiming its planet-breaker cannon at Titan. They weren't waiting. They weren't taking chances. They were going to kill Earth's last base before the fleet even woke. "Now!" I screamed. Juno triggered the override. The charges exploded. Half the Dreadnought's lower systems went dark. The planet breaker fizzled and died, electricity dancing like a dying god across its surface. Inside Titan, I saw them rise on our screen. Ships, old Terran cruisers, battleships, fighters built in secrecy, sleeping in ice. They came alive like hounds smelling blood. Earth's fleet was waking up. We bought them 6 hours. Now humanity had an army again, and we weren't just back. We were coming for revenge. The stars over Saturn lit up like a battlefield reborn. They came alive. Terran ships rising through the ice like angry titans pulled from ancient slumber. Rusted at the edges but breathing fire from their engines, dozens of cruisers, bombers, and deep space fighters roared to life. Titan's Wrath, the Vindicator, Revenant One, names we thought long lost carved into hulls that now charged toward the Dominion's death machine like avenging gods. "We've got visuals on the fleet!" Juno cried. "They're active! Shields up, weapons hot!" I didn't have time to marvel. We were still inside the Herald, its bowels trembling from the last round of explosions we'd planted. Dominion enforcers were everywhere now, pouring in from all sides, silent, fast, deadly. They didn't care about prisoners. They didn't care about winning a fight. They just wanted us dead before their ship fell apart. "Extraction routes cut off," Vex said, firing a plasma burst that turned one into smoldering ash. "We'll never make it back to Wraith." "I'm not trying to make it," I growled, shouldering my rifle. "I'm trying to make sure this floating graveyard doesn't fire again." Rico, bleeding but alive, propped himself against a bulkhead. "If we die here, we die famous." The ship shuddered violently. Then another explosion. This time not from us. "They're engaging!" Juno screamed over the comm. "The fleet's in formation, 3 wings hitting the Herald's left flank. They're drawing fire away from Titan. From the cracked viewport, I saw it. Our ships swarming the Herald like angry hornets. One corvette dove straight into the Dreadnought's underbelly and exploded, taking a shield generator with it. Another cruiser unleashed its full salvo, shaking the Herald's starboard guns into silence. And yet, it still lived. The Herald was massive, too massive. Our fleet, as heroic and reborn as it was patched together from leftover tech and buried dreams. Their ships were younger, sleeker, programmed with no fear. Then came the Dominion's reinforcements. Out of hyperspace, 3 more ships warped in, smaller than the Herald, but each one a death sentence in its own right. Warden-class interdictors, black and silent. They began surrounding the Terran fleet, boxing it in, trying to choke it before it could fully spread its wings. "General Cato, status on heavy weapons?" I asked, routing the comm through my wrist pad as I set the final charge inside the Herald's power relay. "Still charging," Cato replied. "Those ships were frozen with bare minimum AI cores. It's a miracle they're flying. Give us 5 more minutes." 5 minutes in a war like this might as well be 5 years. "Aaron," Vex said, eyes locked on mine. "We hold the engine room." I nodded. We sealed the bulkhead behind us. Plasma turrets armed. Last magazine loaded. The Dominion didn't announce themselves. They just came. Blades first. The first wave hit us like a wave of bone and steel. We held the line, teeth clenched, firing until the barrels of our weapons glowed white. I saw Vex take one through the leg and keep shooting. I saw Rico switch to a knife when his gun jammed. I saw death all around us, but I didn't let it in. Not yet. Then the floor shook again, but not from the enemy. Something massive had arrived. From the depths of Saturn's storm clouds, one final Terran ship emerged, larger than any of ours, a relic from the earliest days of the war, the Nemesis, Earth's first Dreadnought. "I thought that thing was destroyed," Juno breathed, watching from orbit. "Apparently it was just waiting," I said. The Nemesis didn't speak. It didn't broadcast any threats. It just opened fire with its spinal railgun, a weapon long banned by galactic treaty, and tore through the Dominion's second ship like it was made of paper. 1 shot, 1 kill. The battlefield shifted instantly. The Herald, already burning from within, began to falter. Its shields flickered. Its secondary batteries went dark. The Terran fleet, seeing the tide shift, surged forward in full formation. We were winning. And down in the belly of the Herald, as more enforcers closed in, I triggered the last set of explosives. The core ruptured. The Herald began to die. The Herald died screaming. It didn't explode in a flash of fire like in the old war vids. It tore itself apart, slow and terrible, like a beast realizing too late it had been poisoned from within. Sections of the Dreadnought peeled away into space, shredded by the cascading core implosion I'd triggered. Its main battery, meant to erase worlds, hung lifeless, cracked and drifting like the broken fang of a predator that finally bled. From the viewport of Wraith, Juno watched it collapse. "We just killed a goddamn Herald," she whispered. "Correction," I muttered, slumped in the co-pilot's seat, blood crusting along a gash over my ribs. "We made it kill itself." Rico and Vex had made it too. Barely. We'd evac'd in a stolen Dominion pod, hurling ourselves into orbit moments before the ship's spine snapped in half. Wraith picked us up just in time, dragged us into her rotten, glorious hull, and now we were limping back toward Titan's airspace, while the rest of Earth's fleet mopped up what remained of the Dominion's strike force. But just when we thought we could breathe again, the message came through. Not from our side, from theirs. It was an open broadcast. No encryption, no distortion, just a clean, calm voice, smooth and terrifying in its serenity. "We see you, children of Earth. You've made quite a mess." Juno froze. "That's not Tharnax. That's not Dominion either." It wasn't. I recognized the tone. Too elegant, too composed. Not military, not even political. It was clinical. The screen flickered to life. A pale face appeared. Humanoid in shape, but wrong. Skin like polished bone. Eyes milky and lidless. No hair, no emotion, just presence. You were not meant to survive. Your extinction was planned, calculated, necessary. What the hell am I looking at? Rico asked, grimacing as he tightened the bandage around his gut wound. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because I had heard whispers of them before. Back when Earth still had secrets and deep files no one was supposed to open. The ones who gave the Dominion the solar destabilizer. The ones who traded forbidden tech to the Tharnax in exchange for something. The ones who stayed in the shadows and watched galaxies fall. The architects. You have upset balance, the being said, and balance must be restored. Then the signal cut. No coordinates, no threats, just a fact. And every Terran ship on the battlefield went dead silent. They were never part of the war, Juno whispered. They were watching. Vex spoke next, eyes narrowed. You think they wanted us to die out naturally? Like we were part of some galactic cleansing? I shook my head slowly. Number. They didn't want us to die. They wanted us to be erased, forgotten, like we were a glitch they never wanted recorded. And now that we were back, loud, messy, and burning through enemy fleets, they couldn't ignore us anymore. General Cato came through the comms, his voice lower than I'd ever heard it. They're real, he said. The architects. Black file data confirms it. They're ancient, not a species, more like a ruling class of the galaxy. Scientists, engineers, manipulators. No empire, just control. They keep things balanced until they don't like what they see. And we're the thing they don't like, I said. Exactly. So that was the new game. The Dominion was never the real threat. The Tharnax were just blunt instruments. The real enemy? It was the hand that guided the hammer. The ones who rewrote history so Earth never existed. We'd forced them into the light. And now they were coming. You want a war? I said, half to myself, half to the silent stars beyond the viewport. We just buried a goddamn Herald. Come try us. And as we set course back to Titan, patched, bruised, but breathing, the crew around me didn't flinch. Because we all knew something now. This wasn't just a rebellion anymore. It was a reckoning. The architects didn't arrive with warships. They didn't need to. 3 days after the Herald's fall, the stars changed. I mean that literally. Systems across a dozen sectors began reporting anomalies. Gravitational shifts, time distortions, sensor blackouts. Entire planets lost power. Space itself twisted like it was breathing. People started going missing. Not killed. Not taken. Erased. Even we couldn't track it. 1 minute, an Allied fleet base at Eltar 3 was online, bustling, sending routine reports. The next, it was gone. Not destroyed, just not there. As if someone had deleted the idea of it. And every time, just before it happened, the same signal came through. Balance must be restored. We tried to fight it. We really did. Sent patrols, ran scans, nothing worked. No trace of an enemy, no weapons fired. Just vanishing. It wasn't war. It was cosmic censorship. We're not dealing with a species, Juno said one night, staring into her screen, sweat glistening down her temple. This is something else. They're beyond biology, beyond tech. They're rewriting physics like it's a script. Then we need to rewrite ours, I replied. We weren't built to fight this kind of enemy. But we weren't built to go quietly either. And we had one advantage left. Memory. See, the architects could erase bases, ships, even people. But they couldn't erase what we remembered. Not fast enough. Not yet. That's when we changed tactics. Instead of weapons, we used stories. We began transmitting everything. Battle logs, faces, names, coordinates, resistance networks, even failures, across every corner of the galaxy. Ancient pirate relays, Kravari memory stones, even literal signal buoys we dropped into systems manually. We turned our survival into a virus. If they erased one version, 10 more would echo somewhere else. They can't delete all of us, Vex said, holding a fractured data drive like it was sacred scripture. Not when we've infected the stars? The architects reacted, fast and brutal. A week later, they made their first real appearance, over Lerna 9, a research moon that had joined our cause. They didn't send ships, just one glowing figure descending from orbit. It wasn't a drone, it wasn't a being, it was a shape, a humanoid silhouette of pure white light, pulsing like a living sun, radiating silence. Every system went offline the second it landed. Our troops fell to their knees, screaming, not from pain but from memories being stripped away in real time. "I forgot my mother's name," one soldier sobbed into the comms before it went dead. "She was just there. And now, I can't." Juno tracked the signal trail as far as she could. What she found was impossible. The architect wasn't destroying code. It was rewriting consciousness, not just of individuals, but entire civilizations. We needed answers. We needed a way to fight this kind of enemy. That's when Cato made contact again. This time he had something. A vault. One of Earth's last secrets. A hidden Terran AI buried deep beneath Antarctica, codenamed Prometheus Zero. A quantum consciousness designed to predict extinction-level threats. "Why didn't we use it before?" I asked. "Because," Cato said grimly, "we were afraid of what it might say." But fear wasn't a luxury anymore. We rerouted all remaining Terran ships, Kravari rebels, and even rogue Tharnax defectors to one destination: Earth. Our burned-out, forgotten cradle. The final stand wouldn't be in deep space. It would be home. And as Wraith entered Earth's orbit for the first time in nearly 60 years, I looked down at the blue marble that birthed us all, scarred, bruised, but still spinning. The architects wanted us gone. We were about to remind them why that was such a bad idea. We descended through Earth's skies like ghosts returning from the underworld. The planet was barely recognizable. The orbital scars from the Dominion's assault were still there. Black rings and floating debris fields like funeral wreaths for a world everyone thought was dead. But beneath the clouds, Earth still breathed. Patches of green, cities rebuilt underground, signs of life defying all odds. Prometheus Zero lay deep under what used to be Antarctica, locked away beneath kilometers of reinforced alloy and quantum shielding. No direct access, no radio signals. It had been built that way, to be awakened only if humanity itself was on the verge of being forgotten. So we woke it. The descent took us into the ice like a blade through bone. Frozen silence, flickering lights, and a growing sense that we were walking into something older than any war. The core chamber was a cathedral of wires and frost, and at its heart stood a black cube, humming with a pulse that wasn't mechanical. More like alive. Juno initiated the sequence. Her hands trembled. "Prometheus," she said softly, "humanity requests audience." At first, nothing. Then a low, melodic tone, like the beginning of a memory being rebuilt. And the room lit up. A voice echoed, clear, ageless, and undeniably human. "You have returned. State your extinction probability." I stepped forward. "Active enemy is non-physical. Rewriting systems, memory, and existence. Estimated population retention, 53 million. Active resistance, fragmented. Total extinction probable within 32 standard days." Silence. Then Prometheus responded. "Acknowledged. Initiating last protocol. Species preservation through dominant threat response. Warning, solution may exceed ethical limitations." "We've passed that line already," I muttered. "Do it." The cube shifted. It didn't move. It transformed. Patterns unfolded, layers peeled back, light cracked through the seams. Holograms flared to life, weapon schematics, neural warfare designs, ancient forbidden Terran technology even we'd never seen before. This, Juno breathed, awestruck. This is all pre-Dominion, pre-everything. Prometheus had stored every idea Earth ever buried, every blueprint banned by peace accords, every experimental defense scrapped by fear, and now it was giving it all back. Deploy Project Lazarus, Prometheus said. Wait, what's Project Lazarus? Vex asked. A memory weapon. My blood went cold. The enemy erases you by removing memory from the universe. Project Lazarus counters by imprinting memory into reality. Permanently. Through pain. Prometheus displayed the weapon, a massive orbital device, forged in Earth's dying days, meant to bind consciousness into the quantum fabric of space-time, not just to remember the dead, but to make them unforgettable. Pain, Prometheus continued, is the strongest imprint. Each loss becomes history, unrewritable. The idea was horrifying, to fight beings who delete through silence. We'd fight by screaming so loudly reality itself couldn't ignore us. Get it online, I said. Within hours, the Resistance, Kravari, Terran, even Tharnak's exiles, rallied in Earth orbit, ships patched with scavenged parts, AI-guided missiles, and rail cannons armed with Lazarus beacons. We weren't trying to survive anymore. We were trying to become impossible to erase. The architects responded fast. 5 figures of light descended over Earth, each one larger than the last. They didn't walk. They hovered. They didn't speak. They pulsed. And wherever they passed, memory bent. Vex screamed in the middle of battle, dropping to his knees as he forgot his own name. But Lazarus had already activated. The first shot fired wasn't a weapon. It was a recording. Our history, grief, rage burned into the airwaves and laced into every railgun shell. The shells didn't just explode. They etched our stories into space-time with every impact. The architects struck back. One touched a Terran ship, and it blinked out of existence, mid-transmission. But 5 others received its last signal, remembered it, and sent it forward again. You cannot win, the architect spoke into the minds of every living being. You are flawed, chaotic, unstable. Juno screamed into the comms, Yeah, well, guess what? Chaos doesn't forget. We hit them with everything. Lazarus beams that turned agony into memory. Plasma rounds embedded with human DNA signatures. Our losses were staggering. Every ship that died was a monument, every soldier a memorial. But it worked. We began to stick. The architects touched and erased. But the next moment, the same thing would return. Wounded, burnt, but still remembered. Because we had finally weaponized the one thing they couldn't control. Our grief. On the battlefield below, on scorched Earth soil, the largest architect descended. It walked on nothing. Its voice bent gravity. Its face shimmered with 1,000,000 forgotten lives. And I faced it. Me, bleeding, broken, standing in a crater that used to be a city. You still think we're weak? I spat. You are. Then why are you here? The architect paused. Because you would not die. I raised the final beacon, the core of Lazarus. It wasn't built to destroy. It was built to burn us into the cosmos. You tried to make us forget who we are, I said. Now we'll make the stars remember forever. I triggered the core. Blinding white. Memories surged. Not just mine. Everyone's. Juno's first kill. Rico's mother on Earth's last day. Vex's brother dying at the hands of the Dominion. The fall of Earth. The rise of the rebellion. The pain. The fire. The rage. It all spilled into the architect like a tidal wave of soul fire. What is this? It whispered, for the first time. afraid. It's being human. And then it shattered. Not with an explosion, not with fire. It broke apart from remembering. The rest fled, not defeated, just outmatched by something they never evolved to understand. Emotion, loss, identity, the refusal to vanish. They could erase systems, but they couldn't erase meaning. Weeks passed. The war was over, though scars remained. The galaxy changed its tone. Species that had once mocked us sent emissaries. Monuments to the dead rose on worlds that once burned our flags. And Earth, fractured, weathered, haunted, became a symbol. Not of power, but of persistence. Prometheus Zero slept again. Lazarus was deactivated. Too powerful to leave running, too sacred to destroy. Juno buried the activation key in a place even I don't know. As for me, I still wake up in the middle of the night hearing names that almost disappeared, but I remember them. We all remember them. And now, so does the universe.